That restaurant was so cute. Kara gushed as you stepped into her apartment, her eyes bright and wide. She was so utterly stunning like this. Her energy enthralling. We have to go back sometime. You smiled and reached for her, hands falling instinctively to her waist. Her arms came around your neck and you walked her backwards until her spine was pressed against the wall beside her door. She let out a quiet, "Oh," as you pinned her there, biting her lip as you stared at her with intention. You leaned in, catching her lips with yours. It started off sweet, a simple brushing of lips. You hummed, your grip tightening on her waist. You knew it wouldn't hurt her, seeing as she was Supergirl, the famed heroine of National City, but it was enough to get her attention. She gave a tiny moan, and you deepened the kiss, slipping your tongue into her open mouth. It met hers midway and battled for dominance. Though she submitted quickly, she was very submissive when it came to these matters, and you guessed it had to do with her having to be firm and authoritative as Supergirl. Your hands slid from her hips down to her legs, and you lifted her up, her legs encircling your waist. She tangled her fingers in your hair and gripped it tightly, earning a low groan from you as you carried her towards the couch. It was borderline painful, but it didn't bother you by any means. You thought it was hot when she lost control of her strength a little. You were the only person who could do this to her, and you were going to enjoy it for the rest of your lives. Stopping in front of the couch, you sat Kara down on the cushions before pushing her onto her back. Her cheeks were flushed, and her soft plush lips were kissed swollen, and you'd never seen such an enticing sight in all your years. She was gorgeous. You climbed onto the couch, elbows on either side of her head and a leg slotted between hers. Your lips reconnected and her arms came around you, pulling you flush against her. She whined as your leg was pressed harder against her and you smirked. Doing it again, you swallowed the answering noise and slowly ground yourself down her thigh. Her hold on you tightened, keeping you trapped, not that you minded in the slightest. This was the farthest you've ever gone, and you were going to enjoy it while you could. She kept her lips attached firmly to yours, and her hands slid into your shirt, nails digging into your back. You made a startled noise, but it only egged you on, and your tongue traced every inch of Kara's mouth, dragging along her upper lip before diving back in. Her tongue was wet and hot against yours, driving you mad. All you could do was imagine all the pleasant things she could be doing with it. You bucked your hips. When the need to breathe became too much for her, she broke contact and tilted her head, exposing the long expansion of her neck. You froze. One thing Kara didn't know about you was that you weren't exactly human. Once upon a time, you had been. But you'd met someone who had changed your entire world, and now you were an immortal. Well, actually, you were what humans consider to be a vampire, but you hated that term. It sounded so sinister. Yes, you needed blood, and yes, you were stronger and faster than most people, but that didn't mean you were a bad person. You didn't hurt people. All your meals came from blood banks, and you didn't use your abilities often, if at all. So why should such a stigma get put on you? You'd wanted to tell her, but you never knew how. She told you she was an alien about a month into your relationship, but you were so scared to lose her that when it came to telling her the truth about you, you panicked and clammed up. Besides, would she even believe you? Vampires were just some made-up creatures meant to scare kids, right? But that was why you never complained or told her about her losing control of her strength. It didn't faze you. You actually enjoyed the pressure of her hands in your hair, or her clawing at your back. You could feel it, and it felt really nice. You swallowed hard and laid down, running your nose along the side of her neck. She smelled divine, and when you could hear her heart pounding wildly, her pulse point quivering, all you wanted to do was taste her. Kissing the juncture where her neck met her shoulder, you paused. Her warm skin and racing blood was hypnotizing, and the urge to sink your teeth in was almost too much. You tried pulling back, but one of her hands fell to the back of your head and encouraged you to stay put. Your tongue poked out from beneath your lips, and you traced it along her neck, finally tasting the flesh that had taunted you for so long. There was a reason you tried staying away from her neck whenever you made out, and this was the exact reason. You could feel your fangs extended into tiny, sharp daggers. You couldn't hold back any longer. You opened your mouth and scraped your teeth along that juncture that was oh so tempting. Her surprised moan spurred you on, and you clamped your lips around the thin, bloody line. You took a little drag before snapping out of your lusty haze. Eyes wide with terror, you were off her in a second, and on the other side of the room. Your hand was over your mouth and tears filled your eyes, though they'd never fall. Kara stared at you in shock, touching the trickling line on her neck. You cut your eyes toward the door and ran for it, unable to face what you'd done. How could you have been so stupid and lost control like that? You'd never forgive yourself for this. Before your hand could touch the knob, Kara was standing in front of you, a confused look marring her features. "What's going on? How did you—" She trailed off and waved her hand about violently. You backed up, shame written all across your face. "I'm so sorry, Kara. I didn't mean to. I meant to tell you, but I couldn't. And then this happened, and I'm so sorry," you cried, shaking your head. "Just let me leave, and I'll never bother you again." Kara's expression changed from confusion to determination as she crossed her arms. "No, you have some explaining to do now." Rubbing a hand across your cheek, you stared at the floor. "Years before we met, I came into contact with someone who wasn't a good person. They were awful, actually," you smiled humorously. "I didn't know that, though, until one night they turned on me and bit me. I woke up days later with a thirst for something no human has ever lusted over, and powers that I couldn't explain. It took a long time for me to accept it, and even now I have trouble coming to terms with it, but..." You took a deep breath. "I'm what most humans consider a vampire. I've been for over 30 years. Kara stared at you in stunned silence, crystal blue eyes wider than you'd ever seen them. Apprehension filled you, and you continued to mumble. "I never wanted to hurt you, and I honestly wanted to tell you I just..." "Just what?" Kara demanded, betrayal swimming in her eyes. "You had plenty of opportunities. I told you I was an alien. You could have told me then." Swallowing dryly, you pursed your lips. "I was afraid. Most people are terrified of vampires. I didn't want to lose you. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I thought that if you knew, things would change and you wouldn't want me anymore. And I couldn't bear that thought, so whenever I wanted to tell you, I freaked out and didn't say anything." Kara's gaze softened, and she stepped towards you, grabbing your hands in hers. She brought one up to her lips and kissed the back of it soothingly. "I'm not afraid of you. I just wish you'd told me. This is a big deal." "I know," you sighed, hating how sad you sounded. Kara cupped your cheeks and brought your lips together in a sweet kiss. She was hurt you hadn't trusted her with such a secret, but you meant a lot to her, and she wasn't going to let this destroy your relationship. So what if you drank blood? It wasn't the weirdest thing she'd ever heard before. After all, she was an alien. Why wouldn't vampires exist? You were flabbergasted, yet hopeful. You returned the kiss, pouring every emotion you felt into it. You loved Kara so damn much. You didn't want to lose her. "You have a lot of things to explain, but this doesn't have to be the end for us," Kara said, pulling back so she could stare into your eyes. "Okay." You agreed meekly, leading Kara to the couch. You'd tell her everything she wanted to know. You'd never lie to her again. That was a promise you planned to keep.